lovely to see you today. Come to meet me, Mary Seacole. Did you know I was one of the most famous nurses of my time? They used to say my name in the same breath as that of Florence Nightingale. To start with, I was born in Shh. I was born in Kingston, Jamaica in 1850. Well, it would be impolite of me to tell you the exact date, but it was there or thereabouts. Now, my mother was a nurse, so it was only natural that I should follow in her footsteps. She ran a boarding house for wounded soldiers on the island, and from when I was small, I would watch her intently, and then go and practice on my dolls and any small animals I could catch.
Right, you have been a very good soldier, but we need to get you back to your mummy.
They usually survived. Over the years, several epidemics swept through Jamaica, such as cholera, dysentery, and yellow fever. Whilst sadly there were many casualties, it gave me the perfect opportunity to practice my skills, and I became known as a respected doctress. So in 1854, when news came to the island that soldiers that I knew as my sons were suffering terribly in the Crimean War, I hot-footed it to England to volunteer my skills as a nurse. As the special war correspondent for the Times, William H. Russell, wrote,
"Not only are there insufficient surgeons, not only are there no nurses, no dressers, and there is no linen to make bandages, and there is no preparation for the commonest of surgical operations."
I was devastated to think of my sons suffering in this way. I wanted to use the skills my mother had taught me. Surely my help would be required. I started at the War Office.
We have no requirement for your services here, madame.
So I tried the Quartermaster General.
What? No, my dear girl. Try Elizabeth Herbert at the Crimean Fund.
So I went to Mrs. Herbert.
Certainly not. The full complement of nurses has been secured.
I found this very strange, seeing that I knew that they were desperate for experienced nurses. I could not help but think that each rejection had everything to do with the color, yes, of my skin. But I would not be deterred. As there was a God above me, I vowed to help my sons. I scrabbled together what little money I had to purchase medical supplies, food, linen, and made the 3,000-mile trip to the Crimea. I would open my own boarding house, just like my mother. It is funny how life sometimes prepares you for this moment in time. I would call it the British Hotel. My sons could come and convalesce there and raise much needed supplies. At Florence Nightingale's hospital in Scutari, I was pleasantly received once I made it clear I was just passing through. Mrs. Nightingale herself was very polite to my face.
What do you want, Mrs. Seacole? Anything we can do for you? If it lies within my power, I shall be very happy.
But behind my back, it was a different story.
I had the greatest difficulty in repelling Mrs. Seacole's advances and in preventing association between her and my nurses. An hotel? Whatever next? Anyone who employs Mrs. Seacole shall invite much kindness, also drunkenness and improper conduct. An hotel. The very idea.
What a cheek! Swearing and drunkenness were never permitted in my hotel. The British Hotel was a place of sanctuary, not debauchery. Every morning, I loaded up a horse with supplies and with my guide, rode through the battlefield, dodging bullets here and there to tend to my sons. But not just my sons. Any man who needed my assistance on the battlefield. I was almost called a traitor, for I offered whatever help I could to whomever I could, regardless of their nationality. Every casualty was a mother's son, and it was my duty to help them. Indeed, that kind man, William H. Russell, had this to say about me in the Times.
Mary Seacole is a warm, successful physician. She doctors and cures all manner of men with extraordinary success. She is always near the battlefield, ready to aid the wounded, and has earned the blessing of many a poor fellow.
High praise indeed. And he was not alone. I also had the gratitude of my sons, like Officer Tynan, who went to the trouble of writing me a letter.
Dear Mrs. Seacole, I would like to acknowledge my gratitude to you and say thank you for the kindness which I, in common with many others, experienced at your hand when we were attacked with cholera in the spring of 1855. You are an instrument in the hands of the Almighty to preserve many a gallant heart to our great empire, to fight and win her battles, if ever again war should become a necessity. Please accept this from your most humble and grateful servant, W. J. Tynan.
But as the war drew to a close in 1856 and the soldiers began returning home, my hotel began to struggle. I hate to say it, but I was almost destitute. But you know what my sons did for me? They threw a 4-day festival in my honor to raise funds. I looked after them, and then they looked after me. Over 80,000 of my sons attended. My heart swelled to see them. All those faces showing their love for me at the Royal Surrey Zoological Gardens.
3 cheers for Mother Seacole! Hip hip!
Hooray!
Hip hip!
Hooray!
Hip hip!
Hooray!
But things did not go exactly to plan. As is quite often in my life, events took a strange turn.
I say, Lord Palmerston, did you know that Mother Seacole has not been able to receive a farthing of the money raised?
My good man, why ever not?
Surrey Gardens Company, who ran the event, went bust and the money simply disappeared.
Disappeared?
Disappeared. As a result, we require you to put the screws into a certain party.
Dear Prime Minister, see to it that Mother Seacole is put right. Sincerely yours, LP. Would that suffice?
That'll do. I shall trespass no more upon your valuable time.
I was touched that such esteemed men would intervene on my behalf, and indeed many funds were raised. But it was never about the money for me. Everything I did in service to my boys, and it was a pleasure to serve them in any way I could. And here I stand before you, the first black woman to have a statue of her own outside St. Thomas's Hospital. It is a tribute to my dedication and courage. We must always remember to continue the fight for equality, no matter your religion or none, your sexuality, or indeed, as I had to face, the color of your skin.